AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance college money. Context: my sister F27 and I 18F lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mum was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left money inheritance for me and sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now cause my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be doctor, but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister, I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about dad and mock his illness and make a scene at his funeral. Only because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot, lately venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in out the hospital for heart problems and in need for a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I end up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery, and she'd pay back in less than a year. I felt uneasy cause if I give her money from my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a year gap, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel, with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority and I needed to help, because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel, with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority and I needed to help, because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me this is what I was saying no to: a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish, not good aunt and sister. I asked my friend, and he said let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warned me if I give them money I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school.
AITA for laughing out loud when my husband told me his friends thinks he's the perfect husband. My husband was all smiles and encouraged when he told me that his friends at church told him they were talking about how he's the perfect husband. I immediately laughed and noticed that he was offended by that. I then started to tell him how I believe he is an amazing husband and I wouldn't want to be married to anybody else, but I know the good, bad, and ugly, so perfect is not how I would describe you. I could tell he was still not pleased. I told him my reaction was the same way he laughs and thinks, if only you knew when someone tells him that I must be an angel and they can't see me getting upset because he sees me when I'm upset often. I learned that he expected me to be happy for him and think that it's awesome that his friends think so highly of him. Even when I challenged that I know you best as a husband because I'm married to you, he told me his friends know him better because I tell them things I don't tell you. He also shared he didn't think they literally meant perfect in the sense of having zero flaws, but his interpretation was they thought him to be a high-quality, role model husband. When they gave him the compliment, he simply said thank you and said he wanted to ask them later about why they think that.
AITA for bringing up my brother's premature birth at Christmas dinner to get my parents to shut up. I am a nurse practitioner and I am the primary care provider for many low-risk maternity cases at the practice where I work. I also work closely with doctors and midwives. My fiancée is completing her residency. We live together and have for a few years now. We aren't in any hurry to get married. We originally had plans to do so a couple of years ago, but then we got really busy. It is driving my very religious parents crazy that their youngest son is living in sin. I don't really care. I'm an adult and I do what I want. We are getting married in June, so we are visiting my parents for Christmas. The way it came together this year, everyone is at my parents' house. So that's my folks, my 3 siblings, myself and my fiancé, and 7 grandchildren. So 17 people. At dinner, my mom starts going on about how she is so glad that we are finally getting married and she won't be embarrassed at church anymore. My dad says how proud he is of his 3 older kids who all either waited to get married before moving in together or got married right away after moving in together. My fiancé was getting embarrassed and I was getting mad. A family dinner was the last straw. I started talking about a premature baby I had been reading about. My mom and dad got deer in the headlights looks. I asked about my oldest brother, born almost 4 months premature. He was over 9 pounds. I told them if I heard anything about my living arrangements again, I would keep bringing up my mom's second trimester when they got married. My parents are mad at me for telling them how to behave in their own home. But my fiancé is happy that they seem to be off the subject for good. AITA.
AITA for telling cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card. Throwaway because husband told me I was TA and want to know before I get home and argue. On phone format is bad. I was in a higher-end department store today, rhymes with looming tales, and happened to end up next to 2 teenage-aged girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots, and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at price tag and asks Boots girl if she's really going to spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of, "It's fine, I have my dad's credit card, I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud, but had split up from the girls at this point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register, me behind, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl is about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this, and someone has to parent this kid if no one else will. I tell cashier that isn't her card, but her father's, and I'm not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was going to throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card and it gives him the points. Now that I've pointed out it wasn't hers, cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name. Yeah, that will help. And I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business, that she's doing something illegal, she needs to pay with her own card, or I call the cops. Girl is pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me, and I tell my husband when I get home, only for him to agree I was in the wrong. So Reddit, AITA,